Imagine stepping into a town where time hasn't moved since the 1980s, and everything feels frozen in place. Today, we're exploring a forgotten German town that looks like it belongs in a time capsule. You won't believe your eyes. The secret socialist experiment. Eisenhüttenstadt was far from an ordinary town. It was born in 1950 as a bold experiment, a showcase of socialist ideals designed to prove that communism could engineer the perfect city. The East German government invested millions into creating it, planning everything with meticulous precision. Wide boulevards stretched across the town, identical apartment blocks lined the streets, and a massive steel factory was built to employ thousands of workers. Every detail was carefully considered, from the exact placement of trees along the streets to the color of every building's paint. The city was meant to be a model of efficiency, order, and modernity. But history had other plans. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, East Germany embraced Western culture and capitalism at a rapid pace. Many cities rushed to modernize, renovate, or completely rebuild. Eisenhüttenstadt, however, took a very different path. It effectively pressed pause. The steel factory, which had been the town's economic heart, entered a long-lasting crisis. With no funds to invest in modernization or renovation, the buildings, streets, and infrastructure simply froze in time. Today, walking through Eisenhüttenstadt feels like stepping into a perfectly preserved time capsule. The original 1950s architecture remains untouched. Street signs still use the distinctive East German fonts, and many shops maintain their original facades from decades ago. The town exudes an eerie, nostalgic charm, an accidental preservation of a moment in history that nobody planned to keep. It wasn't the result of careful conservation or tourism planning. It happened purely because the town lacked the resources to change. Every corner of Eisenhüttenstadt tells a story of ambition, crisis, and a rare glimpse into a socialist past that has otherwise vanished. Life inside the time capsule. The people of Eisenhüttenstadt have a complicated relationship with their town's frozen-in-time existence. For many, especially the older residents, the unchanged streets and familiar buildings are a source of comfort. They know every neighbor, every shop, and every corner of their community, and the slower pace of life is a stark contrast to the fast-moving rhythm of modern Germany. Here, people still shop at small, local stores instead of sprawling supermarkets. They gather in the same community centers their parents once visited and continue traditions that have vanished elsewhere. For the younger generation, life in Eisenhüttenstadt presents a difficult choice. They can stay in a town where opportunities are limited but community bonds remain strong, or leave for larger cities where life moves at a relentless 21st century speed. Over the years, thousands have chosen to leave, which is why the population has dropped by more than half since reunification. Those who remain are fiercely protective of their way of life. They have watched the rest of Germany transform with constant construction, soaring costs, and the disappearance of close-knit communities. In Eisenhüttenstadt, neighbors still knock on doors to borrow sugar, children play freely and unsupervised in the streets, and everyone knows the local baker by name. To outsiders, this can feel idyllic, almost nostalgic, but to some, it can feel limiting or stifling. Yet, in a continent dominated by modern development and high-speed living, such a close, traditional community is rare. An extraordinary pocket of everyday life, preserved from a bygone era. It is a place where history and community coexist, quietly resisting the pressures of modernization and offering a glimpse of what life in Germany once felt like. The architecture that refuses to die. The buildings of Eisenhüttenstadt tell a story that most of the world has tried to erase. Across former East Germany, much of the communist-era architecture has been demolished or heavily modernized to remove any visible trace of the socialist past. But in Eisenhüttenstadt, massive apartment blocks remain exactly as they were built, complete with murals celebrating workers and the ideals of socialism. Every structure reflects the town's original design principles, many of which seem strange by today's standards. Residential areas were carefully planned so that schools, shops, and green spaces were all within walking distance. Cars were scarcely considered because few people owned them, resulting in a pedestrian-friendly layout that modern urban planners now consider remarkably forward-thinking. The main boulevard is impossibly wide, designed for military parades that never came to pass after reunification, giving the town a sense of emptiness and grandeur. The buildings themselves were constructed using prefabricated concrete panels, a method standard across the Soviet bloc. This gives the town a uniform visual style that is both eerie and unexpectedly beautiful. Even the pastel colors that were fashionable in the 1980s, the geometric patterns on building facades, and the stark brutalist concrete, all of it has survived, not because of deliberate preservation, but simply because the town lacked the money to change it. Today, Eisenhüttenstadt has become a magnet for photographers, architecture enthusiasts, and history buffs from around the world. What was once dismissed as drab, outdated, or ugly has been reinterpreted by a new generation as historically significant and even aesthetically compelling. The town stands as a rare living museum of socialist urban design, frozen in time, where every building, street, and public space tells a story about a past that many have tried to forget. The economy that time left behind. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, the effects were felt far beyond Berlin itself, reaching even small, purpose-built towns like Eisenhüttenstadt. For decades, this town had revolved around a single industry, its massive steel mill. The mill wasn't just a place of work, it was the lifeblood of the community, the reason the town existed, and the anchor for its identity. Suddenly, in the wake of reunification, the town was thrust into a market economy it was never designed for. The steel mill, once a symbol of strength and stability, could not compete with Western companies that had modern technology, efficient processes, and access to global markets. Within months, production plummeted, orders dried up, and thousands of workers found themselves unemployed virtually overnight. Shops closed, services dwindled, and a sense of uncertainty settled over the town. The young, ambitious residents, students, skilled workers, and hopeful professionals saw little reason to stay. One by one, they moved westward in search of opportunity, leaving behind a town struggling to redefine itself. What remains in Eisenhüttenstadt today is a stark contrast to the bustling economies of major German cities. The cost of living here is almost unreal by modern standards. Rent, for example, is astonishingly low. A large, comfortable apartment that would be unimaginable in Munich or Berlin can be rented for the price of a parking space in those cities. Day-to-day expenses are equally modest. A haircut costs only a fraction of what it would elsewhere. Groceries are remarkably cheap, and dining out feels like stepping back in time. The pricing seems frozen in the 20th century, reflecting a local economy that has never fully caught up with the pace of post-reunification Germany. This unusual economic situation creates a strange social dynamic. Pensioners and people living on fixed incomes can live comfortably, even luxuriously, compared to their peers in larger cities. They can afford leisure, housing, and basic services without the stress of high costs. But for those hoping to advance their careers, build a business, or innovate, opportunities are scarce. The local economy simply does not generate the kinds of jobs or networks that young professionals need. Why the world is suddenly paying attention? For decades, Eisenhüttenstadt was largely ignored, dismissed by outsiders as a bleak relic of a failed political system. It was overlooked, forgotten, and often criticized for its uniform architecture and stagnant economy. But in recent years, something remarkable has begun to change. Filmmakers, photographers, and journalists have started to discover the town, telling its story to audiences around the world. Young Germans who grew up after reunification are visiting out of curiosity, eager to explore a past they never personally experienced. International tourists are also adding it to their itineraries, drawn by the chance to see an authentic historical site that feels frozen in time. This growing interest comes from the feeling that constant modernization has a cost. While many places change beyond recognition in just a few years, Eisenhüttenstadt offers something rare: stability and a real connection to the past. Walking its streets feels like stepping into the 1950s and 60s, preserved almost by accident, without the need for museums or reconstructions. The town has become a symbol in debates about gentrification and urban planning. While cities like Berlin face rising rents and displacement, Eisenhüttenstadt shows that communities can still stay connected and life can move at a slower pace. Could you live in a town stuck in the 80s? If this blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more hidden gems from around the world. And check out my next video for even stranger places you've never seen.